Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Sport This Week video. And in today's video I've got basketball, baseball, ice hockey, tennis, darts, rugby, NFL, cricket, football, boxing, Moto GP and Formula 1 news. If you are new around here though and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you do need like the video, and let's get straight into it. So going to start off with the basketball news, where of course it is the playoffs at the moment, and so not too many games but important games nonetheless. Celtics won 129 to 121 versus Hawks. Heat won 119 to 114 versus Bucks. Lakers won 117 to 111 versus Grizzlies. Celtics lost 119 to 117 versus Hawks. Lakers lost 116 to 99 versus Grizzlies. Heat won 128 to 126 versus Bucks. Warriors won 123 to 116 versus Kings. Celtics won 128 to 120 versus Hawks. Warriors lost 118 to 99 versus Kings. Lakers won 125 to 85 versus Grizzlies. Heat won 108 to 101 versus Knicks. And Warriors won 120 to 100 versus Kings. And that is all the basketball news. We're on now to the baseball news, where Red Sox lost 5-4 versus Orioles. Astros lost 8-3 versus Rays. Yankees lost 6-1 versus Twins. Red Sox won 8-6 versus Orioles. Dodgers won 8-7 versus Pirates. Astros won 5-0 versus Rays. Yankees lost 6-2 versus Twins. Red Sox lost 6-2 versus Orioles. Yankees won 12-6 versus Twins. Dodgers lost 8-1 versus Pirates. Astros won 1-0 versus Rays. Dodgers lost 6-2 versus Pirates. Yankees won 4-2 versus Rangers. Red Sox lost 5-2 versus Guardians. Yankees lost 5-2 versus Rangers. Astros lost 3-1 versus Phillies. Red Sox lost 5-2 versus Guardians. Yankees lost 5-2 versus Rangers. I've just said that. Dodgers won 7-3 versus Cardinals. Red Sox won 8-7 versus Guardians. Astros lost 6-1 versus Dodgers. No versus Phillies. Yankees lost 2-0 versus Rangers. Dodgers won 1-0 versus Cardinals. Red Sox won 7-1 versus Guardians. Yankees lost 15-2 versus Rangers. And Dodgers won 6-3 versus Cardinals. And that's all the baseball news. Sorry about the little mistakes there. Moving on now to the ice hockey news. Maple Leafs won 5-4 versus Lightning. Bruins won 4-3 versus Panthers. Maple Leafs lost 4-2 versus Lightning. Bruins lost 7-5 versus Panthers. Maple Leafs won 2-1 versus Lightning. And Bruins lost 4-3 versus Panthers. And that is all the ice hockey news. Moving on now to the tennis news, where it is the Matua Madrid Open, where Kontaveit lost 2-0 versus Machova. Sakari won 2-0 versus Rus. Badoza won 2-1 versus Cocchiaretto. Zverev and Melo won 2-0 versus Davidovic Fokina and Risovori. Badoza and Matek Sands won 2-1 versus Fruhirtova and Fruhirtova, the siblings. Alcaraz won 2-1 versus Risovori. Tsitsipas lost 2-0 versus Arivalo and Roger. Swiatek won 2-0 versus Graber. Zverev won 2-1 versus Carbayes Baena. Medvedev won 2-0 versus Vavasori. Badoza won 2-0 versus Guof. Tsitsipas won 2-1 versus TM. Sakari won 2-1 versus Masaravo. Badoza and Matek Sands won 2-0 versus Zhu and Yang. Zverev won 2-0 versus Grenier. Swiatek won 2-0 versus Pera, and Alcaraz won 2-0 versus Dimitrov. And that is all the tennis news. That's going to be finishing that tournament next week. Moving on now to the darts news, where it's a continuation of the Premier League, of course. Smith won 6-1 versus Dobie. Wright won 6-3 versus Goering. Price won 6-2 versus Clayton. Smith won 6-2 versus Wright. Price won 6-3 versus Aspinall. Smith won 6-4 versus Price. It was also the Dutch Darts Championships, where Smith won 6-4 versus Williams. Van Gogh won 6-2 versus Clemens. Wright won 6-5 versus Ratajski. Humphries won 6-3 versus Smith. Van Gogh won 6-2 versus Schindler. Wright won 6-4 versus Smith. Humphries won 6-4 versus Gilding. Van Gogh won 6-2 versus Barry. Wright lost 6-1 versus Chisnell. Humphries won 6-5 versus Nopert. Van Gogh lost 7-6 versus Chisnell. Humphries won 7-3 versus Heta. Humphries lost 8-5 versus Chisnell to win the Dutch Darts Championships. I can't speak today, but that is all the darts news. We're on now to the rugby news, where there's only one bit of news because there was one international friendly, being that England won 64-0 versus France. And that's all the rugby news. We're on now to the NFL news. Jets trading for Rodgers. Ravens extending Jackson, and Eagles trade for Swift. And that is all the NFL news. We're now to the cricket news. New Zealand won by 6 wickets versus Pakistan. Pakistan won by 5 wickets versus New Zealand. Sri Lanka won by an innings and 10 runs versus Ireland. Pakistan won by 7 wickets versus New Zealand. And that's all the cricket news. Moving on now to the football news. Stellini sacked as Spurs caretaker manager. Atalanta won 3-1 versus Roma. Girona won 4-2 versus Real Madrid. Betis drew 0-0 versus Sociedad. Wolves won 2-0 versus Palace. Villa won 1-0 versus Fulham. Leeds drew 1-1 versus Leicester. Burnley and Sheffield United have been promoted. Man City won 4-1 versus Arsenal. Inter won 1-0 versus Juventus. Brentford won 2-0 versus Chelsea. Liverpool won 2-1 versus West Ham. Vallecano won 2-1 versus Barcelona. Forest won 3-1 versus Brighton. Barcelona drew 1-1 versus Chelsea. Spurs drew 2-2 versus Man U. Newcastle won 4-1 versus Everton. Bournemouth won 1-0 versus Southampton. Sevilla won 1-0 versus Bilbao. Bochum drew 1-1 versus Dortmund. Roma drew 1-1 versus Milan. Real Madrid won 4-2 versus Almeria. Brighton won 6-0 versus Wolves. Brentford won 2-1 versus Forest. Palace won 4-3 versus West Ham. Barcelona won 4-0 versus Betis. Lorient won 3-1 versus PSG. Liverpool won 4-3 versus Spurs. Bournemouth won 4-1 versus Leeds. Man City won 2-1 versus Fulham. Man U won 1-0 versus Villa. Newcastle won 3-1 versus Southampton. Atletico Madrid won 5-2 versus Rayo Valladolid. Inter won 3-1 versus Lazio. And Garnacho signed a 5-year contract extension with Man U. And that's all the football news. Moving on now to the boxing news. Vargas, Mason, Diaz and Jones will fight on the 20th of May. Smith versus Eubank rematch. Jones, Heffron versus Chelly, and Cruz Dezern versus Marshall will fight on the 17th of June. Parker versus Django and Zhu versus Bomber will fight on the 24th of May. Edwards versus Campos, Hughes versus Courtney, Johnson versus Scotney, Fisher, Clark versus Jameson, Kumari versus Bellotti, Ryan, Ledard and Ali will fight on the 10th of June. Priest has joined Golden Boy. Ramirez will fight Shimzu on the 25th of July. Silva will fight Rebola on the 26th of May. Rosado has retired. Wings versus Boogie. Korn versus Unbaya. Nesta versus Archie. And Zuckles will fight on the 13th of May. Clavel will fight Reyes on the 12th of May. Wiley will fight... Wiley won by unanimous decision versus Gabiniashvili. Ubai won by unanimous decision versus Okdikadze. Martinez won by split decision versus Ubali. Lefebvre won by unanimous decision versus Dionysius to remain WBO World Super Bantamweight Champion, which is not what I predicted, but a fair play to her. She outboxed her as a whole and won, unanimously, and fair play to her. The other prediction I did for the Clavel fight is that fight got postponed, so that's going to be, I believe it is. I put it down somewhere. I'll get to it at some point. But yeah, that has been rescheduled for sometime in May. I believe I wrote it down. If I haven't, then it's sometime in May. And so that prediction is just going to stay there for that. And now you know my prediction for that. It's an early prediction, I suppose. But yeah, fair play to Dionysius. Not Dionysius, Lefebvre. I doubted her, and I shouldn't have doubted her. Stevens won by unanimous decision versus Periban. Fulgham won by TKO in round 2 versus Williams. Suniga won via KO in round 1 versus Arroyo. Cruz won by TKO in round 2 versus Selders. Cal Cruyff won by unanimous decision versus Bryce. Lawson won by unanimous decision versus Villarboss. Marias won by KO in round 2 versus De La Hoya to become WBA Intercontinental Featherweight Champion, which I didn't predict right, and I don't think many people did. Zepeda won by KO in round 2 versus Arboleda, which I think a lot of people did predict right, as well as me. I predicted that right as well. Hopefully big things on for him now. A bit of a dark horse in the division, I suppose. Be interesting to see where he goes. I hope he doesn't. People have been talking about him ducking Shakur. Hopefully he doesn't. I don't know if he is. Don't want to throw them accusations around, but if he is, then hopefully he stops. And Miguez drew versus Weiss. So I didn't predict that right, but I don't ever predict draws anyway. But fair enough. They're going to have to run it back, I suppose. Moving on now to the UFC/BKFC. news and adding that bit on in there because it's been an entertaining weekend in terms of bare knuckle. But before we get onto that, UFC wise, McCann will fight Stoliarenko on the 22nd of July. Barrio won via submission in round 2 versus Oleg Siejczuk. Yadong won via KO in round 5 versus Simon. Means vs Moreno, Dern vs Hill, Rodriguez vs Gary, Smith vs Walker, and Rosenstruik vs Almeida will fight on the 13th of May. Alvarez won via split decision versus Mendes, which I did predict right, and I was quite happy with that because not many people were, because of course it was Alvarez's BKFC debut, and they thought that Mendes' explosiveness would be too much, but fair play to Alvarez. And Perry won via TK in round 2 versus Rockhold, which I did also predict right, and I think a lot of people did. And it just shows how much Perry is kind of made for this BKFC sport. He just thrives in it. And also Mendes has retired after the loss versus Alvarez, but a great career overall for him, and legend in the sport. And now BKFC gonna be more interesting than ever. Wouldn't mind Alvarez versus Perry if that fight ever happens. I mean, Conor McGregor was at the fight and there was a face-off there. Don't know if that will ever happen, of course. I mean, we've got to wait for McGregor to do what he's doing in the UFC at the moment, but maybe a little bit further along down the line that could happen, and I would love that fight to happen. I think it would be so entertaining. The build-up would be so good, and I'm sure it would completely sell out any place it goes to. And but moving on now to the F1 news. Tost to step down from Alfa Romeo team principal. It was the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Perez won the sprint, Leclerc was on pole, Perez started second and Verstappen started third. In the end, Perez won, Verstappen came second and Leclerc came third, with Zhou and De Vries not finishing. And now moving on to the final sport, which is the Moto GP news. It was the Spanish Grand Prix. Marquez missed it and was replaced with Lecuona. Marquez missed it because of injury, I believe. Kazakhstan Grand Prix was also cancelled for 2023. Binder won the sprint, Espargo was on pole, Miller started second and Martin started third. In the end, Bagnaia won, Binder came second and Miller came third, with Vinales, Zarco, Bezzecchi, Rins, Mir and Oliveira not finishing. And that is it for today's video. I hope you did enjoy. Like if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.